and welcome. I'm DDF Racer, and today I'm trying out RaceRoom's brand new FR X-22 car. I can't technically call it a Formula 1 car, but I think it's pretty obvious what it is. Featuring fully authentic ground effect physics, including, yes, porpoising, and a 1.6-litre V6 turbocharged engine, complete with integrated hybrid energy system. A first for RaceRoom, this cutting-edge single-seater is something I've been looking forward to driving for a long time. The power unit comes with an automatic battery management mode, which adjusts your deployment and regeneration for you, meaning if you want to, you can just get in and drive. But this can be manually overridden with 5 preset maps, which you can adjust to your liking from the setup menu. You can also manually override these from within the car to fine-tune your deployment and regeneration rates on the fly. And for an instant boost of power, there is an overtake mode available too. And this is just for the battery. There's still the usual adjustable engine map for the ICE, the internal combustion engine, which controls your overall power delivery and fuel usage. Factor in your DRS on the rear wing too, and basically what this all means is you're gonna need to map a lot of buttons for this car. The FR X-22 is blindingly quick in terms of individual lap times, but the real skill in getting the most out of this car is going to be over the course of a race. Energy management is going to be critical, as you'll struggle to get more than a lap out of your battery with everything turned up. In terms of tyres, there are the soft, medium and hard compounds available, which will strike a delicate strategic balance between overall grip and longevity. No wet tyres for obvious reasons, sadly. This is also the first car in RaceRoom that features the halo, although for those who find it visually distracting, there is an option to disable it in the menu. I think it's time to take it out on track. So one of the first things that strikes you about this car is the insane acceleration. You are flying up the gears, and before you know it, you're already in 8th and heading onto the Camel Straight. Wow. And that engine sound as well, that is spot on. Listen to that. Great job, RaceRoom. As always, sounds absolutely top-notch. This thing really wants to be driven fast, and when you do drive it fast, it just sticks to the road. My goodness. Although that said, it does like to get a bit bouncy as the speed builds up, so you can see the car porpoising up and down here. I'm not shaking my head at all. This is all built into the physics. The car is bouncing and scuffing along the ground, and I can feel it through the wheel. Kind of feels like a flat tire. Feels awful, actually, but it's what happens in real life. It's what's happening in RaceRoom. The physics are quite convincing. Now, you can get rid of the porpoising through the car setup by raising the overall ride height, but that gets rid of grip across the board. You don't really want to do that if you can help it. It just understeers. Wow. Yeah, the car, when it gets to absolute top speed, it just plows on. Like, you probably won't notice it in most circuits, but here at Spa, with a few corners that are absolutely flat out, then yeah, you're gonna notice that porpoising. So, in addition to raising the ride height, something that's going to be very important in these cars is the third spring. It's basically, it compresses and helps stiffen up the car the higher the speed gets, which is exactly what you want to try and do to eliminate porpoising. You want the car not to be hitting the ground. You want the car to be as low as possible, but not scraping the arse out of it. And in addition to that, you can increase the spring stiffness across the board, but that is going to make it quite a nervous car and quite a snappy car, and it's really going to reduce the compliance over the curbs. Like that just unsettles the car so much. Oh, it's a lot of fun though. Man, this thing just sticks to the road. But yeah, low speed traction is a bit of an issue because you got the turbo trying to spool up at the same time. So you want to try and approach these corners in the right gear. Like with a turbo hybrid car, you don't want to shift at maximum revs, but at the same time, you need to approach the corner in the correct gear. You need to not be in too high of a gear and drop the revs too much, because then the car's just going to bog down. And then when it does kindly hit that rev, it's going to give you a sudden burst of power. Short shifting is going to be a massive thing in these cars, not only for engine power on the straights and for maximizing the torque and all that, but just for getting the power down and not putting a big pair of black lines on the circuit behind you. On the left-hand side of the steering wheel are two vertical colored bars. Blue shows your current battery charge, and white shows your engine revs. Because of the power curve in the FR X-22, shifting at peak revs isn't the fastest way to drive anymore, unlike RaceRoom's previous modern Formula 1 style FR X-17. You'll need to shift early in this car to maximize the power available. The electric motor gives an extra 160 brake horsepower when on 100% deployment, although this will barely last for more than a full lap if you run it in this mode continuously. The battery is recharged both through thermal and kinetic energy recovery. Thermal recovery captures heat from the turbo and runs all of the time, whereas the kinetic recovery only kicks in when you lift off the throttle. Something worth keeping in mind is that the engine map you're running does also affect the amount of power coming from the battery. On engine maps 1 and 2, the electric motor isn't used at all, whereas in engine maps 3 to 5, the electric motor is deployed with increasingly more power. On top of this, there are also 5 energy maps available which control how much deployment and recharging takes place, although you can set this to auto if you want RaceRoom to manage this for you. Finally, there is an overtake mode available which can be toggled on and off and instantly overrides all of your energy settings to 100% deployment and 0% regen. Now, when you're out on track playing with your energy management settings, that information comes up in the usual notifications box in RaceRoom that would normally give you information about, say, for example, cut tracks or engine map. And you can see here, yep, there it is, preset 4, preset 3, whatever I'm on, and it gives you the actual regen and deployment rates as well. So it makes it really nice to see where your map is currently at. Not only that, when you enable overtake mode, you can see on the bottom right-hand corner of the steering wheel that rather obviously labelled OT icon changes from green to red, indicating quite clearly you are in overtake mode. And this notifications box can be moved around on screen to a position of your choosing as well. Just make sure you've got the Modify HUD Position keybind enabled in the menu, and then by pressing that button, you can just click and drag and move that around to anywhere you like. You can change the preset deployment and regen settings for your 5 energy maps, much in the same way that you can change your traction control levels, although this car doesn't have any, by going to the electronic tab in the car setup menu. Now, this second section on the page is the bit that you're interested in, and this will actually tell you all of the settings for the different maps. So by default, it's set to auto, but then preset 1, you can see it's highlighted here on the side. That is 100% regen and 0% discharge, so effectively charge the battery as much as possible. And then they progressively get more aggressive the higher the map goes. So map 2 is 80 regen, 20 discharge, then it's 50-50, then it's 20-80 the other way around. Finally, map 5, 0% regen and 100% discharge. Now, when you adjust these presets to your liking, they don't have to be symmetrical. This is just the way that RaceRoom does it by default. So say, for example, if I wanted to have map 2 regen at 80, but I also wanted to deploy more battery than 20, then you can see I can pop that up to 50%. Same in reverse as well. If I want to be on map 5 and having 100% of the battery go, I can dial in, say, 30-40% regen in the background as well. So it doesn't have to be symmetrical, completely customizable. Now, I can hear some of you saying, well, why not just run both at 100%? Well, because at 100% deployment, you're going to be using way more battery than you could ever regenerate, even with regen set to 100%, so eventually you are going to drain the battery. At some point, you're going to need to turn the energy deployment down and just let the regen do its thing. So, obvious next question is, well, why not just run at 100% regeneration and then adjust your deployment around the lap to suit? Well, as I mentioned a moment ago, in this FR X-22 car, energy is harvested when you lift off the throttle, and this is done by turning the electric motors into electric generators. This introduces resistance into the rear axle, not only slowing the car down through the corners, but also shifting the brake balance of the car rearwards too. If you're on a push lap, you want to maximize your corner speeds as much as possible, so by turning the regen down to 0, you'll have less rolling resistance when off the throttle, effectively reducing unwanted engine braking of the electric variety. Now, you won't be able to do a second push lap after this, so it really does add to the strategy of where you decide to use your extra electric power throughout the race. It also really puts the pressure on in qualifying of being able to nail that perfect lap in one attempt while the soft tyres are fresh and the battery is full. Speaking of which, I think it's time to see what this thing can really do. Fresh tyres, low tank of fuel, and a few setup changes on the car as well, which make it much more compliant in the high speed. Not completely got rid of the bouncing though, but it's better. At least it kind of turns through Eau Rouge now. I don't want to be using any battery on this lap. I want to have a full battery for when I cross the start-finish line, so I can run it on map 5 for the entire lap, and maybe even throw some cheeky overtake mode in there as well. And of course some DRS, which I'll be using at the authentic points that we would expect to see them in real life. Won't be using it all the way around the track. I think that's a little bit unfair. Although that's what they used to run back in the early days of DRS in Formula 1, and I actually really prefer that, because qualifying should be about maximum lap time, you know? It should be about the best that a car can do. And if you've got the DRS available to give you that boost down the straight, I think you should be able to use it in qualifying. Obviously keep the zones for the race, but man, I miss those crazy laps of seeing the cars run with the rear wings open through places they really shouldn't be running with the rear wings open. Approaching the final corner now, so let's pop it up into map 5 and let's get ready. Let's maximize our launch onto the main start-finish straight. Nice wide exit, straighten up the acceleration zone, and here we go. That lap didn't work. Stuffed it up at the first hairpin La Source and then proceeded to run wide, invalidating the lap anyway. So I'm going to take it nice and easy on this lap and put it back down into map 1. I'm going to try and recharge that battery before we get to the line and go again while I've still got some fuel in the tank and soft tyres that are relatively okay. Now you can see I'm lifting it through the straight here, which is recharging the battery. Because don't forget that while I'm not at full throttle, it will be charging, in addition to taking the heat off the turbo as well. Let's pop it down into map 5. Let's try again. Let's nail it through Eau Rouge and let's get ready for some DRS onto the Camel Straight. Roundabout. Now, you can see the back of the car pop up. Man, this thing is so fast. And it just sticks. The grip is incredible. Let's see what kind of speed we can take Pooh on at. That's insane. I know I could go even faster than that as well. That was so conservative. Probably the trickiest corner on the circuit, actually, this final chicane, because it's so difficult to get that power down. It's so easy to lock up as well. No ABS, no traction control on these things. Short shift into third, wait for that turbo. We managed a full lap on map 5, and that is a 147.34. I know I can go a lot faster than that, because that was kind of scruffy, and I still have battery to spare, so I could pop that into overtake, I reckon, and get a few more tenths out of that. Oh, that was going to be a 46. That was like 8 tenths up as well. Oh, well, I'm not going to have enough time to recharge the battery on this lap. Woo! 146.2. I think there's definitely a 145 in there somewhere. There was a massive wiggle coming out of the second sector. That probably cost me a few tenths there. So, okay, I think it's time to reset and go for a quiet lap. we go, across the line. There's another half second. 45.7. Whew, that was quite possibly one of the most insane hot laps. One of the most mind-bendingly quick hot laps I've ever done. Wow. Bravo FR X-22. This is an awesome car to drive. And I honestly cannot wait to take this car out in a proper race and see what the strategy's like with all the energy maps. It's going to be intense. Now I want to say a massive thank you to RaceRoom, not only for the awesome custom livery, which you guys may have already noticed, but for giving me early access to this car so I could drive it before release and make this video for you. So if you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave it a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to see more RaceRoom content. Thanks for watching, and until next time, you look after yourselves. Bye bye.